All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. Another day here in the lab, doing a fun lab today, working with the Ideal Gas Wall Lab to figure out how much water is inside of a kernel of popcorn. So, kernel of popcorn, these little tiny guys here. How much of this thing here is water? Now it's dry to the touch, but how much water is inside of it? In order to do that, we're going to pop it. We're going to pop the popcorn and figure out what pressure that takes. Then we can use our pervert to figure out how many moles in of water is in our grain. So here is the lab setup that we're looking at today. There's all of our equipment there that we're going to use. And unfortunately, I won't be able to transmit the smells to you guys through this lab, but it's a very good smelling lab. People in class are going to benefit from that. Pretty fun lab to work with. So without further ado, let's get to it. Here is the lab itself. Hopefully you guys have taken a look at this on Canvas. It's there, it's available to you. And you don't have to print it. You certainly don't have to print it, but you will have to kind of take out a piece of paper and kind of copy down the back side here. So again, if I move too fast for you, make sure you find it on Canvas and at least copy down that back side. Okay, so we've got all of our materials. Now we're on to the procedure. So procedure number one, we need to find the mass of our popcorn. So we're going to count out 16 kernels of popcorn. But before we do that, we need to record the mass of an empty weighing boat. So here is an empty weighing boat, nothing in it, you see. Here is our balance, get that turned on and that fired up. So it's already at 0, that's good. We'll always double check to make sure it's at grams, and it is. Put that on there, and there we go. 2.70 grams is the mass of my empty weighing boat. So there's my first piece of data, mass of weighing boat. Okay, now we're going to count out 16 kernels of corn and add them to our boat. There's 4, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right, there we go. Our 16 kernels of corn. And now we remass. Right, so with the kernels of corn in there, 4.68 grams. So that's our second data point here, 4.68 grams. The mass of the popcorn then, that's something you guys can do. Show your work off to the side to calculate, hey, if the weighing cup weighs that much, and the weighing cup plus the kernels of corn weigh that much, how much do just the kernels of corn weigh? Again, show your work, make sure there's units in the work, make sure you check for correct significant digits, and record your answer there. I'm going to go ahead and move on now. Next, we're going to find the volume of the popcorn. So using water displacement method, find the volume of 16 kernels of corn using our 25 milliliter graduated cylinder. And then make sure you use paper towels when you're done to dry the kernels of corn. Okay, so water displacement method means we're going to start with a known quantity of water. I'm going to say let's start at 10 milliliters. Now, it's not really important where we start as long as we know where that is. But I'm going to start us at 10 milliliters of water. And always look at the bottom of the meniscus here. There we go. All right, so there's our 10 milliliters of water. It's our initial volume of water there. And now we're going to add our kernels of corn. There we go. And how much did our volume go up by? So we started at 10, and now it is at, just under, so here would be 11, 12, 13, just under 14. I'm going to say 13.8 is our volume there. So looking back at our lab, we started with 10 milliliters of water. And after we put the kernels of corn in, we had 13.8 milliliters of water plus corn. So for this portion right here, the volume of your popcorn, how many milliliters does your corn occupy? Again, I'll let you guys figure that one out. Make sure you guys showing your work. The next step then, you are converting your milliliters into liters. Remember, to work with Pivnert, we need to have a volume in liters. So show your conversion from milliliters to liters. And then I'm going to move on with the lab. I'll let you guys do the math yourselves, and I'm going to move on. The third part here, we're finding the mass of the water in the popcorn. So I got to get my kernels of corn out of my graduated cylinder. And sometimes this is kind of tough. Stuck in there sometimes. All right, there we go. Ooh, a little banging around. Got him. Put them on paper towel here, dry them off. All right, next up, here is our Erlenmeyer flask. Now to this flask, we're going to add 1 pipette full of oil. That's what smells so delicious when we get to cooking. I'm getting very small amounts in my pipette here, so that's why I'm doing more than 1 pipette full. I think 3 good squeezes there. That should be that should just about equal our 1 full pipette, 3 partial pipettes. And now I'm going to throw in my kernels of corn. Okay, and now we are going to find the mass of this. So everything all together, 74.39. So that'll go right here, 74.39 grams is the mass of everything together. And that'll be important when we come back to the end after we popped our popcorn. Sorry about that, I wrote that up there without you being able to see it. So we'll come back and find the mass of all of that again once we popped the popcorn. Okay, next up, we're going to put a piece of aluminum foil over the popcorn, and we're going to poke a couple of holes in it. So this will retain a lot of the heat, but we want some of it to escape. Pop some holes in it. There we go. Oops. Sorry about that. Next up, the fun part. Now we're going to pop the popcorn on a hot plate. We want to slowly move the flask back and forth. We're going to use tongs to do that so that we make sure we don't burn our And we'll have to give it a few minutes, get it in as high as we can get it to go here. But we'll just give it a few minutes, let it warm up. Grab some tongs so I can move it around once it starts to get warm. Yep, definitely warming up, but it's going to take a few minutes here to get it all the way. So while we're working, while we're waiting for it to warm up, let's take a look at some of the theory here. So again, we have these kernels of popcorn, or something like that, and they've got some water in them. And we're curious how much water is inside these kernels. Well, in theory, again, we just found the mass of our kernels before they're popped. In theory, we're going to warm them up, which is what we're doing on the hot plate now. And as we warm them up, they will eventually pop. You guys have all seen popcorn. Well, when it pops, turns into that popcorn, all of the water is going to escape. Popcorn's rather dry. So there's not much water in there, so water escapes as a vapor when it pops. And so when we have our dry popcorn, we were to figure out and subtract out how much water was lost. And that's the amount of water that we thought was in this popcorn to begin with. Back to our popcorn here. Let's see if this is getting any warmer. Get a better picture for you guys, and you should see those kernels. And I should be able to see them pop, hopefully. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there's a good shot for us. In general, that's not the most terribly important thing to move it around until you start getting the pop. I don't want it to burn once they're popped. So we'll just continue to wait here a minute. We'll let them get nice and warm and then pop away. Oh yeah, you can start to see the oil in there. I can definitely see it here in person, but I think I can see it on the screen as well. The oil is starting to get warm. We can tell it's starting to bubble a little bit, starting to boil a little bit. Hey, had a first little pop there. It's time to start moving around a little bit so we don't burn our popcorn. Popcorn's going to burn a lot easier than the kernels will. Hey, got another one. I don't know if you guys are seeing this on tape. Yeah, there goes another one. Look at that. Popping like crazy on us now. Oh, there goes another one. Ooh. Look at him go. Still seeing one kernel in there. We're going to try to get them all to pop. But I definitely don't want to risk burning them. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it off and think that we've got it as good as we can get it at this point. Boy, that smell is awesome. All right, so I'm seeing one kernel in there that hadn't yet popped. So hopefully that's not, hopefully that doesn't stay that way. Hopefully they all got popped at some point or another. Okay, so as it starts to cool, you notice all that water there on the sides of the Erlenmeyer. We want to do our best to get that water out of there, because again, we're trying to find what the mass of this is without water. Starting to cool off a little bit, so not too hot to the touch. Still a little hot. Ooh. Really hot down at the bottom. Okay. All right, so there we go. Got it about as dry as we can. So now we're going to find the mass again. So now we'll be determining the mass of the flask, oil, and popcorn. So, losing steam as we speak. Still alive, still all right. Let's go ahead and tar this though. All right, so back to zero. Let's try this all one more time. All right, 74.04. That was close to what it started off with at the beginning last time. Oops. That drop where so just losing mass. Yeah, I'm going to call this, I'm going to go ahead and call it right there, 74.02. I know it's losing mass as we speak, but it might just be some old batteries on here. So now that we have our popped popcorn, 74.02. So obviously you can see there was a mass that was lost, and that in theory was the water that evaporated when the corn popped. All that mass of water that was in there was evaporated. So I'll let you guys determine the mass of water in the popcorn, the molecular mass of water. You're going to need your periodic table for that. So then think of the chemical formula of water, H2O. What is the mass of two H's? What is the mass of O? And that'll be your molecular mass of water. And then the percent of water in the popcorn. Well, you're going to have your mass of water and the mass of the total popcorn. So before popping. So your mass of water over the total mass of your popcorn. Again, that's going to be before you popped it times 100%. And that'll give you your percent of water in the popcorn. Number 2 is asking for how many moles of water. I would imagine you guys know how to go from a mass to a moles. And then number 3, you're figuring out how much pressure it took to pop that popcorn. For standard atmospheric pressure, that's 1 atmosphere, 1 ATM. Or if you like kilopascals, it's 101.3 kilopascals. So the last couple questions there, have you guys talk about what's going on with the popcorn? Again, make sure you guys are doing this lab and not getting information from others. These values might change if you're borrowing it from others. So people at home, I want to see these data values as your lab. So again, I'm sorry you're missing the smells. They smell delicious here. We've got some nice oily buttered popcorn. So sorry we missed you today, but looking forward to seeing you guys here next year and maybe come down and do this lab with us then. Until then, get this lab done. I'll see you guys next week.